woods around Leipzig, a city in eastern Germany. Nearly 200 years ago, in 1813, it was the scene of the Battle of the Nations, where European allies dealt a decisive blow to Napoleon. Now, each autumn, enthusiasts from across the continent descend on Leipzig to reenact the battle. I've come to ask why. I meet a troop of men who've traveled all the way from southern France. They don't seem to mind playing the defeated army, but they're not so happy about the cold. Patrice is the standard bearer, he tells me, and he can't carry a 6-kilo flag with ice-cold hands. The group spent last night in their tents. Temperatures dropped to -3 Celsius. And the tents offer scant protection against the cold. The mattresses are sacks filled with straw. The tents, uniforms, and equipment are all authentic. They were specially made from original designs. I asked the men what drew them to this hobby. It's a social universe that doesn't exist anymore, Patrice explains. There's a togetherness you don't find in today's society. Frank says the values they're living out here don't exist in the 21st century. What values? Respect, camaraderie, solidarity, he explains. But if it's about values, do they really have to reenact such barbarity? I ask if they aren't just glorifying war. Quite the opposite, Frank insists. What they're doing shows the cruelty and hardship of our wars. He thinks it highlights how fortunate we are to have the European Union. The continent had so many wars, the Napoleonic Wars, the First and Second World Wars. And now, in the 21st century, we're all united. Frank says that's because everyone has worked for peace, to avoid the experiences of our ancestors. It's positive, he insists. And what they're reenacting helps remind people how lucky we are. Right next door, a group from Poland are setting up camp. That wouldn't have happened in 1813. Then the French and Polish forces were enemies. There's truth in what Frank said. It's great to see European neighbors peacefully playing war games together. This Polish man explains they brought a replica Prussian cannon, and they will be firing it. Big guns, dressing up, sitting around the campfire, that's nothing to do with militarism, people tell me. It's all a bit of boyish fun. Simon, also from Poland, tells me how he first got involved.
For me personally, it started from reading books. It was a very fascinating world I found in them. And the more books I read, I felt some kind of hunger in myself. I wanted to experience everything that I read about. And step by step, it came out with reenactment.
In this very male world, I do find a few women. They have a traditional role to play, looking after the camp, while the men ready for battle. And most are only here because of the men. This woman says her husband was quite clear. If she wanted to see more of him, she'd have to join in. Now she's firmly cast in the supporting role. And her daughter has no choice but to come along too. The drummers are rallying for the fight. 700 soldiers march to the battlefield, joined by crowds in more modern dress. As I search for a good vantage point, I come across a group of real German soldiers. They've come prepared for the noise, the true sign of a professional. I ask one of them whether he would have liked the job 200 years ago. As a soldier, your chances of survival are considerably higher today, he replies. And that's quite an important factor. He's worried that might appear cowardly. But 2 centuries ago, 1 soldier in 6 fell in battle. The Battle of the Nations cost almost 100,000 lives. The troops have taken up positions. The battle commences. I can't make out a clear front. It looks like lots of separate skirmishes. Groups are continually advancing and retreating. The original battle must have been a complex fight. The dozens of different uniforms add to my confusion. They had to be so colorful so soldiers could see who was who in the clouds from the gunpowder. The explosions here look real enough, but no bullets or cannonballs are fired. And it's prearranged who plays dead. I've had enough. My ears are ringing from all the noise. At least this battle lasts just an hour and a half, not 3 days like the original. It's getting dark. The soup is cooking over the campfire. But before the meal, Frank wants to show me something. I'm in the marshal's tent. It's an intimidating sight with all its pomp and finery. There's no straw in here, and there's even carpet on the floor. The marshal is reviewing the day's battle with his commanders. Clearly, these men are politicians, unwilling to admit defeat. This officer says his troops were forced to abandon hostilities when they ran out of ammunition. His colleague insists this wasn't a defeat, though it certainly wasn't a victory either. I'm impressed. These men have taken their roles to heart. But what do the officers do in the real world? This man's a civil servant, he explains. But they come from all walks: doctors, lawyers, factory workers, tradesmen. And lots of pensioners, his friend adds. They don't differentiate, he explains. The marshal is a heating systems technician, a pretty regular job, but now he's a marshal. I leave the officers to their dinner. I want to see what the foot soldiers are up to. The group from France has a visitor, one of their Polish neighbors.
Can I try your drum? Just a little bit. Just a... 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Bum, bum, bum.
On the battlefield, they were enemies. Now they're playing together. Perhaps what Frank told me was right, and these war games are about friendship.
Vive la France!
Vive la France et vive
la Pologne!
La Pologne.
Poles, Frenchmen, and Germans all celebrating together. Even 70 years ago, this would have been unthinkable. These men have been brought together by their passion for long-gone, war-torn times. But tonight, they're more than happy to be in a peaceful Europe.